when she's got a 50-50 shot. Anybody out there who bets sports for a living, that's usually, you should take that bet. And a lot of people made a ton of money doing exactly this, betting on Trump back in 2016. When I show you guys the 2016 odds, you're going to be blown away from what the betting markets were.
So just to recap, there's 4 accounts that have bet $30 million that are basically responsible for this huge surge for Trump. And all of those accounts are behaving in a very similar fashion, raising the possibility that it's actually one individual who is gaming this market and pushing up the odds in favor of Trump. And it just so happens that it comes immediately after Elon Musk tweets about how accurate Polymarket is and how we should all be looking at Polymarket to understand the real odds going on in this election. It also is a Peter Thiel-backed platform, worth noting that as well. But yeah, the big question mark has been whether there was, some organic something going on there. Like, my initial thought was once Elon Musk tweeted that there were a bunch of like Elon Musk bros who were like, oh, I got to get in on this. But it looks like it was much more, it was, one whale or a number of them who decided they wanted to push up the odds. And this is significant also because we know that part of how Trump last time justified his Stop the Steal lies was by claiming that Republicans had, an insurmountable lead on election night, and it was, preposterous to imagine that they were going to lose. And so this also very much seems like, and Trump has leaned into this too, setting the expectation that Trump is 100% going to win. And so if he doesn't, there must have been something nefarious. So I think that's part of what's going on here. By the way, Elon didn't just promote this one, the Polymarket one time. He's tweeted like 20 different times about Polymarket. All of a bunch of the right-wing influencer accounts on Twitter have picked up this same approach and have been pumping the Polymarket odds and claiming that this shows the real truth of how likely Donald Trump is to win. And again, I think it's, for some of these people, it's just about clout and whatever. But I think for Trump specifically, and potentially for Elon Musk, it's also about trying to lay the groundwork to claim that the election is stolen if he ends up not winning.
It's certainly possible. I mean, it's just one of those where everyone always likes to say, like, oh, when money is on the line, it's more accurate. But okay, I don't watch sports. I'm friends with a lot of people who are obsessed with sports betting. And the general consensus around sports, and even the line, like what Vegas and all those come up with, they take all the information, they try and distill it into a number. That number, it's not bad. It can sometimes be accurate. But then how often are you watching a game where there's a spread that we think is quite reasonable, and then something happens at the very last minute and everybody loses? So even though the team that you bet on might win, they may not cover the spread. Or how often does somebody get hurt, or one thing goes a different way, and then the entire thing shifts in a different direction? If you don't believe me, for the first 3 weeks of the NFL season, I believe the public was on the wrong side of the bet for some 80%. So if you look at how good sports bettors actually are, separate conversation that I do want to save for later. Similarly, it's like exuberant. So whether it's a whale or it's dumb, or it's just like Elon bros and dumb money, like, irrational exuberance is a tale as old as time in the stock market. And this idea that, oh, just because people are willing to put millions of dollars behind something, that they may not be totally wrong, is also completely inaccurate. So let's, for example, put C3 up on the screen. I had no idea about this, actually, and it was raised in this Wall Street Journal piece. A single trader lost between $4 and $7 million exactly 12 years ago, betting on Mitt Romney to win the election. 4 to 7 million. All of the money from the single trader were placed exactly 2 weeks before the overall presidential election in 2012. They believed wholeheartedly there was a similar thing, mispriced trade. They thought he was totally...
They were watching too much Fox News.
They were watching way too much television, watching Fox News, and they were out there and bet 4 to 7 million that they ended up losing, that Mitt Romney would win the presidential election. Similarly, in 2016, can we put this up there, please? Because this is crazy. These are the live betting odds from RCP average that were of the prediction markets at the time. On the day of the presidential election, November 7, 2016, Donald Trump had a 13% chance of winning, according to the betting markets at that time. 13%, Clinton at 88. And
how's that for the wisdom of the markets?
Yes, exactly. This is what I'm trying to really underscore for everybody. And in fact, one of the things that Nate talks about in his book is that there are a ton of gamblers who love Nate Silver, and they were looking at Nate Silver's odds on the day of the election, he gave Donald Trump a 28% chance of winning or something like that. And they were like, hey, 28% chance, 12% that the market's giving me, mispriced line. They didn't even think Trump was going to win. They put $1,000 or something like that. They got like 9-to-1 odds in terms of the payout that they received. He said to this day, whenever he goes out to eat, people still buy him dinner because they've won so much money betting on Donald Trump to win the election because of Nate Silver's forecast. So that's my point, is that if you look at these markets, and especially where they are right now, on top of with crypto, I mean, look, I'm pro crypto and all that, but with Polymarket, we have very little insight into what this is, into even, we have very little insight into like who these traders are, for example, who are moving these big bets. They're not probably as used to having to deal with like literal massive whales. This is a never before seen situation with such a large marketplace on the issue of the presidential election. So if you just think that this is a correct and accurate reflection, I mean, again, we don't even have that in the most well-regulated market in our stock market, as opposed to what's going on Polymarket.
I am also highly suspicious that this is actually one individual, because not only are they behaving in a very similar fashion, they also were all funded by deposits from Kraken, a US-based crypto exchange. So it is highly suspicious that this is all one individual who is trying to create a portrait of, you know, this being in the bag for Donald Trump, and, you know, using that to create a psychological sense of imminent victory on the Trump side. And Polymarket themselves said that they are actually investigating what is going on here too. So even to your point, Sagar, even if it wasn't for this, you know, 1 or 4 individuals putting in $30 million to get this to look the way that they want it to look, even if it was just a, you know, a bunch of people, wisdom of the crowd or whatever, you still should not put a lot of stock in these betting odds, because people can and markets can very, very easily be wrong. But, you know, part of what I was getting at, and why, you know, I do think that this is potentially on the part of some sort of ominous and nefarious, is we also have people like Marjorie Taylor Greene now floating new Dominion voter conspiracies, claiming that she saw a Facebook post that said that some Dominion voting machine was flipping votes. Elon Musk has also gotten in on this Dominion voting, like, you know, alleging that there could be some fraud afoot with where there are Dominion voting machines. We can go ahead. Let's go ahead and play for you Marjorie Taylor Greene's comments. That's C6, guys.
They went up to one of the election workers and they said, here's the problem. The machine switched it, and my printed ballot, I did not vote for these people. So they had to start over, and they went through it several times, and it kept on making the same error, kept on switching the votes.
So, you know, once again, back to the Dominion voting machines. These people also never learned, because Dominion has sued a bunch of the news networks for all they were worth when they were spreading lies about the operations of their machines. We can put C5, up on the screen with the Elon Musk details here. He said at one of these town halls he did in Pennsylvania, he says, when you have mail-in ballots and no proof of citizenship, it's almost impossible to prove cheating. Statistically, there are some very strange things that happen that are statistically incredibly unlikely. There's also this question of, say, the Dominion voting machines. It is weird that I think they were used in Philadelphia and Maricopa County, Arizona, but not in a lot of other places. Doesn't that seem like a heck of a coincidence? He added, the last thing I would do is trust a computer program. And apparently, sorry, he was not even correct about how and where and when the Dominion voting machines were being used here.
I'm just like, okay, here we go again. You really want to do
exactly
this?
Right.
Even for, you know, at least Elon is rich. He can defend himself in court and decide he can hire a lawyer. Marjorie, the rest of these other folks who want to toy with this stuff, look how it worked out for everybody in the state of Georgia who's under indictment, ends up pleading guilty, giving up their law license, spending hundreds of thousands of dollars on lawyers. So if they want to do that again, go for it.
Yeah.
Let's see how it works out for you.
Well, you remember what Trump said at McDonald's when he got asked about it. He said, you know, something very, was like, he didn't say Dominion voting machines, but he was like, if it's fair, I'll accept the results. And by the way, you know, the predictions say that I have a 93% chance of winning. So of course we're going to win. So that's how all of this plays into, you know, what they have planned post-election day. And it's not just this. They've already filed a range of lawsuits in battleground states to try to challenge, you know, the voters' eligibility. They've stacked a lot of the election boards with people who are like pro-Trump MAGA loyalist, and then there's this sort of like psyop to create an impression that Trump is a sure thing. And listen, he may